Hello, my chicklets. Thank you for stopping by. Today I have got a short, cute story for you. This one is called He's My Secret. Professor Rose, are you dating Professor Peniz? Janus looked at the student who had their hand held up high, desperately attempting to get information that wasn't theirs to have. He smirked, shaking his head. Wouldn't you like to know? That was his standard answer when students were asking about things that were irrelevant to the subject matter he was teaching. Most of the students were curious about his personal life. He was fairly sure they were only curious because he refused to give them any information. If he was completely open about his love life, his partner, and everything else, he doubted a single student would ask. Then again, Patton didn't seem to have that luxury either, and he was an open book. Patton, however, was also a soft soul, and people were interested in him because there was a joy that he always exuded. People were interested in his life because people were interested in him. Janus was fairly sure Patton couldn't have a malicious bone in his body if he tried. That was why they balanced each other out. Janus was known for being mysterious, coy, and, if you were dumb enough to incur his wrath, cruel. He enjoyed being a mystery to his students, watching as they squirmed to try to figure him out. It was one of the many pleasures he took in being a college professor. It was especially enjoyable because he was married to Professor Patton Peniz. They had been for a few years now, and yet no one had the gall to ask Patton about it. His husband was kind enough to not mention him by name, but if any of his students had bothered to ask Patton, Janus had given him permission to share that information. 6 years, and not a single student had. A few students suspected they were together, but no one had proof. The two arrived at different times, in different cars, and left much the same. They would occasionally have lunch together, but more often than not, they both ate in their offices so they would be available for students. From the outside, people could easily argue that they were just two colleagues on good terms. However, others could jump to the conclusion that they were both dedicated professors and did their best to maintain a professional attitude at work. Janus was sure one day someone would figure it out. However, with the way colleges worked, it probably wouldn't matter. A campus's memory wasn't forever. Students moved on, gossip changed, and after a while, Janus would be given his anonymity once again. His little game just provided him a small bit of entertainment. I don't understand why you don't tell them, Patton said that night at dinner as they sat intertwined on a bench seat. Janus had picked up pasta primavera from their favorite place on his way home. Normally, they would make dinner, but the text that Patton had sent him was enough for Janus to know his husband was stressed, and they would need to do something a bit more special and easy for tonight's dinner. I enjoy the secrecy of it all, Janus said, twirling a bit more of his fork before offering it to Patton, who happily took it. His husband had had a hard day in class, a few students getting frustrated over their grades, even though it was what they had earned. Janus would have just told them to drown their tears in their parents' money, but Patton was a kind soul. He did everything he could to make sure his students succeeded, and when he had someone trying to take advantage of that generosity, it always burnt him out a little bit. The worst of it all was because he was so open, his students sometimes tried to use that against him. Janus knew that was the part that hurt Patton the most, watching his people thought they could take advantage of him. Janus would never let someone get away with that, but that was exactly why he loved his husband. Patton's kindness was his ultimate strength. My students know everything. Patton closed his eyes, leaning closer into Janus's embrace. It means I get the chance to be closer to them and get to know all of them better. He was justifying what he did, and Janus hated that Patton felt the need to justify kindness. He wanted his husband to know that no one was going to judge him for being himself, and anyone who tried to take advantage of him would eventually have to answer to either Janus or karma. Sitting down his fork, Janus gently rubbed his husband's leg, pulling Patton in closer. His husband deserved to be treated well, and he just wanted to make sure he could do that, no matter what it took. He wanted to protect the kindness that had won him over. Alexa, play the Patton's Had a Fucking Day playlist. He fought back a laugh, turning to look at the expression on Patton's face. He was pouting, and the moment his eyes connected with Janus's, he hid his face in his husband's neck. I hate that you named it that. It's so vulgar. Janus couldn't help but chuckle, pulling Patton on his lap and swaying him back and forth to the sound of the music. There was a bit of a mix in the playlist, but Janus knew that by the end of it, he would have his husband smiling and laughing once again. No, you don't. You might think it's crude, but you also think it's hilarious. Patton was still pouting, and Janus began to pepper Patton's head with little kisses. The dichotomy of the soft music mixed with the vulgar words makes you think of me. Two-sided and ever-changing. Patton sighed, and Janus felt the tension beginning to fall out of his shoulder. Yeah, he said under protest. It does remind me of how much I love you. Janus smiled. I love you too. Thank you all for listening. Again, that was He's My Secret. I do hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful day.